Hello folks, Helly Helperton here again. We're going to talk today about this beautiful little piece of machinery here. This is a genuine aligned T-Rex inside the Hughes 500 body. And I stress the genuine T-Rex because I know there's some knockoffs out there, and I have one myself, and it's just not at all like the real McCoy. I mean, maybe you guys can get them that way. I can't. I've found that the T-Rex is the perfect one out of the bunch. So now talk to you a little bit here. You notice I have some tape on the canopy here, and that's because I've had in the past these canopies come loose, especially if your rotors aren't perfect. If you got any kind of vibration, it could cause this to come loose. It's on here pretty tight too. But I've had them come off and go into the rotors and actually tear up the canopy. So if you might want to think about putting a little bit of tape on here. So now I'm old school. I use the old Spectrum 6. Love them, have 2 of them. As long as I can find receivers for them, I'll be using them. I have absolutely no trouble with them at all. I've got the new 6. This is one of my old ones here, by the way. As you can see, the antenna has been customized. But I have one of the new DX6i, and I'll tell you what, it's developed a very strange problem. All the trims are in reverse on it, and even Horizon has no clue as to why. But anyway, back to this helicopter. You'll notice here I have a huge battery on this thing, and I hope this is all coming in on the video here. But the reason I did that is this machine, as I found out when I put the body on it, is very tail heavy with this body. I don't know if you guys have done this, run into that, I don't know, but I definitely ran into that. And so I think the very worst thing you could do to an aircraft is add weight for weight and balance. I mean, if you have to, you have to, but in this case, why not, instead of just throwing weights in the front end, how about let's put a bigger battery? You know, we can fly longer. Let's get something out of that weight that we have to use. Now, if these little body deals here are available at different places. I think they're all basically the same, out of the same factories and such. But I want to show you their weaknesses here real quick. Let me grab an X-Acto knife here for a pointer. These blocks that they build up here is a very weak spot. A hard landing, they break loose. So I extra glue them, and I've even put some of that fiberglass stuff you get from the hobby shop, and you can put CA over it or something, anything to strengthen it, epoxy it. But add yourself a little strength there, you'll be glad you did. Now the other thing, these things are a pain in the butt if you have to take them loose. I recommend using one of these little Allen head screws, and use ball drivers. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's got a little ball tip on it. That way you can get some angle at it, because if you have to take this joker apart to work on it, it is a nightmare. Usually I just kind of tack glue these side windows in, and I use a long ball driver to go through here to get the back ones. And now this one is my probably 3rd or 4th body, at least 3rd, because I've had a few mishaps here and there, and now I consider this a show aircraft, and basically all I do is hover it around and fly it very simply around. Of course, as you know probably already, you're going to give up your 3D when you put a body on your T-Rex 450. But that's okay, because if you're like me, you like scale. Now what I've done here, I added some weights to my fly bar, which gives it a little more stability. You don't need to do that if you're probably, most of you guys are a better flyer than I am. But this will give you stability if you're, if you're nervous about one you're starting out on, or you just want it to be, a lazy Sunday flyer. That's the way to go. Now I've got the the El Cheapo fiberglass blades, and I do recommend those. And make sure you balance them in the center and balance between them. You'll notice here I have red tape on here. Now that was not to mark the rotor so I can check for tracking. That was simply I needed some weight on that rotor. But I'll tell you what you do. You see a lot of people, they put these blue and red tape stripes on there, and which is high, the blue or the red? You don't need to do that. Just take a magic marker and draw a line on one blade, just like that. Make it thick enough you can see it on one blade. Then as it's going around to check the tracking, is the black line high or is the white line high? So that's all you need to do. When you start using that tape, it comes off. And by the way, anytime you put tape on your rotors for balance or whatever, make sure you alcohol clean that thing first before you put tape on it so that it will stay. But anyway, instead of making all that extra work for yourself, taping those two different colors, just take a magic marker, make a line, you're done. Now, we'll look at the tail here. I'm not positive, but I think I got the authentic align parts back here to put the aluminum tail on here. And these things, if you've ever done one of these bodies, it's a pain in the butt because you've got to match all this stuff up first, get the tension on your belt, take it all apart, then put the body on it, put it back together. So it's kind of something that's, you know, when you add these bodies, you're going to add work on yourself, but I think it's worth it. So anyway, no problems with this mechanism. It always works well. Now you're probably saying, well, how come he doesn't have the aluminum anodized fancy stuff on the head? Well, eventually I'm going to, when I can afford it, get a 4 rotor system on there. And if any of you guys have those and can comment on them, please leave it on there. Because I really don't know what the best ones are. So I guess I'm going to have to find out the hard way unless somebody tells me. Okay, but I had originally bought a real nice anodized head for it. But now here's what I've run into on these. Now this is the knockoff. This is not a line. I highly recommend, and I know these are dirt cheap for what they are, but I highly recommend you get a lines. But if you're like me, you're on a limited budget, you can't afford a line, you can get the aftermarket. But here's the problem. Here's why I quit using it. All these mechanisms are extremely snug. That takes a little bit to manipulate that. All these parts are very snug. Now they probably in time will break in and get easy, but in the meantime it makes for a pretty tough thing to control. See, what you're doing when you're flying, you're controlling your fly bar, and your fly bar is controlling the rotor. Well, this mechanism being so tight makes it very hard for the fly bar to straighten itself out. And see this, I've got the rotors on it, and this is nice and floppy. You don't want it too floppy where it's loose and going to cause problems. But you can see there's easy movement in it because these paddles and the weights, the weight and centrifugal force and the paddle through the wind is what's keeping this thing stable. And when you put an input in it for it to move, it gives the rotors a few seconds to react. It gives you more time for handling. That's the whole reason of a fly bar. So without the fly bar and without one of these new electronic fly barless systems, it's very hard to manipulate the controls. It's all over the place. So you want a free, you don't want a sloppy fly bar, but you want a nice free, all this mechanism nice and free in here. And you can see the little seesaw arms and everything here is just really snug. And it made the helicopter kind of hard to fly. Now, if I had it on a regular 450 and didn't have the body and stuff, well, I wouldn't care, you know, it would be easy to manipulate. But when you put all this weight on here hanging from this helicopter, that gives it some stability, but it also puts a lot of lag in the controls. And you've already got lag in the controls, and then you've got something that sticks and the fly bar doesn't react as good. Well, now you've got a recipe for possible crash. In fact, this has probably at least caused me one crash. I I don't know what I'll do with it. Probably eventually I'll use it again or something, but if you do get one, and I know it's hard to do because you're getting it online, and I've actually seen guys get these that are extra floppy. They're not tight like this one, but you want something in between. You don't want floppy, you don't want snug, you want in between. And you know, you could probably go through and tweak this stuff. If you're a man that likes to fool around with stuff, you probably get through with tweaking this to get it to where you want it. But it will cause some strange flying characteristics, and so just be prepared for that. Back to this battery, to tell you guys what I put on here. And I just took a little plywood, hobby plywood piece, and made that platform. And of course I put my Velcro over the sticker. Well, it's a 3200, and I'm thinking it's, well, it says 15C, which seems to be okay, but I'd recommend you get at least 20 to 30C. 30C if you can afford it and if you can find one in that range. But you know, like I say, you might as well put a bigger battery on there. If you're gonna have tail heavy weight and balance issues, you might as well get something out of it, you know, and get a bigger battery. Now this joker just barely fits too. Kind of got to put the battery cockeyed. Okay, and then of course we've added lights, as we always do, and this plug-in deal I got, I don't recommend, but you can put whatever you want on there. There was a reason I went for this, and that's so I can get it through the window and don't have to take the canopy off. But see, we've added some lights off of a Venom beacon set. We just run in there. Normally the real one, those wouldn't blink, but you know, hey, what the heck. Got a white light too, which has fallen out, I gotta fix. Anyway, if you like scale, these are a very nice little helicopter. I don't know if you guys have, whoever's watching this, if you've gotten a knockoff 450 before. If you did and you got a good one, you know, let me know, put it in the comments there. Everybody's different in their likes and stuff, and I'm not sorry I bought one of the cheap ones, but I think having both, I think the Align's a better product, but it is outrageously expensive. I'll agree with that. Anyway, I will say this: I bought a 250 knockoff. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the T-Rex 250, and that thing was a POS. I've flown the Aligns and I've flown the knockoff. I don't like either one of them. But if you like them, God bless you. Enjoy it. But anyway, I hope this was a little bit helpful to you and not a waste of your time. And if you have any questions or anything, be sure and put them down. And we'll see you next time.